Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Schaut, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 12 to 19, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yes, I am in the thick of it. I am with you, and I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for them. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skill. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the beautiful mess that family is. Today's guest is my friend, Chris Stimac. He adores his wife, knows and adventures with his kiddos, and he is a positive light in our community. Enjoy meeting my friend, Chris. All right, Christopher Stimac, welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. How you feeling today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Mr. Schaut. How are you?
I'm doing great, dude.
Good.
First question out the gate, and then we'll get to like how we know each other and stuff. How old do you find yourself today?
Oh, how old do I find myself? It's a great question. Well, I find myself 22, always 22. Taylor Swift. Thank you.
Are you a Swiftie?
My daughter. No, I'm not. But I think she's talented and is very, very, very talented and has done a lot. But gosh, I'm 39. I'd say I find myself like 28, 29, 30,
Okay.
31, somewhere in that range.
And what does that range mean to you? So what does like 28 to 31 mean?
Gosh, this is right out the gates, man. I feel in pretty good health and good place in life with family and work and yeah.
Okay.
Shoot, I guess I kind of, if I can retract that, I feel 39. It's a good place to be at. I don't need to be younger than I am.
Okay, so then with that being said, you're coming to the edge of like your 30s, right? So when you were turning 30, turning 30 is a big deal. Turning 40 is a big deal, but it's like I think we start to feel like it's less of a big deal. But when you turn 30, is there anything that you would tell a 29-year-old today? Because you had a kid, we'll talk into that. You had a couple kids, so 29. Is there anything you tell that 29-year-old to like maximize, make the most of, enjoy their 30s as you're coming to the tail end of it?
Man, great question. Absolutely. I think kind of the big differences from 10 years ago, probably just, learning to trust in God, knowing that it is all going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And, definitely there's still ups and downs in life and family and finances. But back when being 29, it's like, I remember those days when there were a few of the harder times of like, how are we going to get through this? Are we going to get through this? And now it's like, oh yeah, God's got it. We're good. Just keep on trusting him. And you'll be, for those, if they're in that place at all, know that you will get through it and be stronger for it. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to ask a couple different questions, then I'm going to come back to a similar question. So how many years have you been married?
Gosh, Libby and I got married in 2008. So we are coming up on 17 years.
Love it. And then how many kiddos do you have and what are their ages?
Yeah, so I've got 2, almost 13 and almost 9.
Okay, so with that, so boy and a girl.
Yeah, boy, girl.
Okay, now with that being said, so 17 years married. And then 13 and 9. If you and I were having a coffee, cracking a beer in 10 years, so you're 49, and we were to ask the same questions like, okay, dude, you're now looking back over your 40s. What do you want to be true as it relates to your relationship with Libby and your relationship with your kiddos? Because like, dude, you're going to have a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old. You're going to be like, definitely over the hump of that kind of like middle school teenager stage. And dude, it goes, right? Like you were just 29, right? It happens. So what do you want to be true about your guys' relationship?
Gosh. So I guess start with the kids. I think biggest thing that I want to maintain is that level of communication and trust with them, that they can always come to us with whatever whatever they have going on. I know we're in, like with Charlie, we're in the preteen stage, right? And Georgia's 8 going on 18 already too,
Of
it seems.
course.
But man, I don't shoot. You've got one in college. Tell what should I be expecting or?
Well, what's funny, dude, is we just this week kind of had our first moment because she just finished her freshman year,
Yeah,
and we were really, I feel like, pretty intentional. She went to Mukulani, where you
yeah,
graduated. She graduated from Mukulani, local Christian school here in Kona, and we have a great relationship, dude. She even works for the company while she's going to school. It's
oh,
awesome,
cool.
but we just had our first, like, it's summertime. She was here for a week and then she went to California, and we're like, hey, you have like why don't you come home? And she's like,
Yeah,
I don't want to come home.
yeah,
And so it was kind of our first, like, she's not doing what it is that I want her to do.
yeah,
And then kind of processing that. So none of it's, I mean, dude, yesterday she sent a text, hey, love you guys. I hope you're not mad that I'm
yeah,
not coming home, and we'll see her in 3 weeks or whatever. But I think communication is huge. And
yeah,
for me, and I'll just share one last story on the communication side. I remember when Brooklyn made her first, like, middle school mistake. I
yeah.
remember 7th grade not reacting, like really having a good pause with myself and going, okay, I'm not going to react here. I'm just going to respond.
Yeah,
And it really set a good tone for the high school years that I might freak out more if a cup is left in her room versus like something that's a little bit more, because I wanted them to always
yeah,
come to me. So
yeah.
anyways,
That's huge.
there's a couple thoughts from my perspective.
Yeah, gosh, and I guess that story with Brooklyn, kind of where she's at now, and that's kind of where you want the kids to be in one sense,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because,
true.
but then there's our side of not wanting them away. Yeah, yeah. Libby and I talk about that a bit. Of we want because a lot of I don't know a lot of people are in the mindset, parents of when they're 18, they're out,
Yeah, yeah.
parent or go, make life. But we're like, at least right now in our life, we want them to be, of course they always have a place, and, but,
Yeah, and I
but
think that
also want them to have that skill set and ability and
yeah.
drive to get out there and be on their own too. So,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I moved out at 18 and never went back. And I think I wear that as a badge of honor. But then
yeah,
you also look at the Hawaiian culture where compared to like your traditional American culture,
yeah,
they are more like family takes care of family. And so
yeah,
I do think that there's this shift. Like if my kid wants to come back after college or in between college or whatever, and we're helping them get on their feet to not, I
yeah.
mean, dude, I paid off my college tuition last year, or my debt
Oh,
last year,
congrats.
bro. Yeah, ridiculous at 40
Yeah,
years old. And so
yeah,
the thing I am seeing though is like I would like to not necessarily make it easy for my kids, but be a
hmm,
part of helping them succeed. Because dude, that's like
yeah,
$350 a month for the last 20 years that I could have been putting towards a mortgage or
yeah,
something else. Anyways, okay, so where do you guys live? So you live here in Kona. How long have you
yeah.
lived in Kona? Tell me a little bit about just kind of like day in, day out life for the Stimac family.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Kona, um, and we live in Kona now. I left, graduated high school and left, went to LA to play music and toured the states, traveled the world and played music, had fun, and came back out 2009. So the year after Libby and I got married, we moved back, and my wife's a middle school teacher at Makualani, and they're actually grade school, upper elementary, I'd say 4th grade. Um, Dude, very blessed. My wife calls me a professional surfer because I surf most days, at least I mean, some days it's, I have to be at the office or doing a showing, meeting people, and I wake up, get the kids ready, do our thing, drop them off, and some days I'll have like 18 minutes in the water, just get out, or 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Some days I can spend an hour or two, but most days it's quick, and then I try to win the day by 3 when the kids are done with school, and
Mm,
be able to spend as much time with them. And doesn't always work. Stuff comes up where I can work for a few hours in the evening after they go to bed too. But
mhm.
there's, I'd say, probably 60% of the time in the afternoons I can be there, maybe 70% of the time, and then the other percentage have to do, either showings or computer work. So yeah, it's good.
Where's your favorite surf spot? If you're going to go jump in, or you have 18 minutes, where are you going to go?
Oh, well, my favorite spot is not where I would go for 18 minutes. It's just most convenient. Probably favorites. I mean, Banyans or A-Bay are the best, but Pines is most convenient. Usually, it's just quick in and out.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to this rock and roll stage just for a second. So you're born in a small town, you go to a small Christian school, and then you move to LA to go play music with your brother. What kind of music? What was the band? Where did you guys tour? And then, something about that.
Cool. Yeah. So actually started my senior year of high school. I took 6 weeks off. I was the youngest in the band. So with my brother and a couple friends we grew up with, and took 6 weeks off and went to Amsterdam and recorded our first album. And back then we were called Not Mother. It was Not Mother with a question mark from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Nice.
Steve Martin. Yeah. Not Mother. But everybody always forgot the question mark. Like we do shows in town and all right, here's Not Mother or Not Your Mother's Band, or like one lady was interviewing us and she's like, why don't you guys like your moms? And
gosh, yeah.
Like, no, we love our moms. It's a question, not mother. Anyway, so I graduated and we moved out to LA and we toured the States, mostly up and down the West Coast, a lot in California. And then we recorded another album in Europe and toured Europe a little bit as well. And 2008, our drummer had a baby and we're kind of like in this legal battle situation with the producer. And so the brakes were kind of put on, and Libby and I looked at each other, and she was working full time doing property management in LA. I was full time with the band and working full time. I was in this catering job, and I was working from like 4 a.m. till 2 p.m. and she was on this like 7 to 7 shift. So we were like 2 shifts passing the night. We looked at each other and we're like, if we stay out here, we're not going to survive. So we took the step and moved back with her parents for a year till we found our place. And then,
Love it. Love it. And you kind of alluded to this, but what is it that you do for a living now?
Oh yeah, thanks. I sell real estate. So yeah.
And I'm sitting in this gorgeous house here in Haleakala because of Chris Stimac getting us into this place, bro. It's like, I love it so much, dude. I think
I'm so glad.
Next to my house in Auburn that, when we lived in California, this is like one of those places that I could be buried in the backyard, hopefully at 100 and not anytime soon by like my kids or wife. But so love it, dude. So you've been doing that. That's how you feed the family. Libby's at the Christian school. Kids are at the Christian school, Makualani. Cool, man. In your opinion, what is the role of the father?
Gosh, to do everything the mom doesn't do. No, role of the father, man. Yeah, exactly, right. Gosh, I think definitely there's, I grew up in a pretty traditional, household where, dad ran the business, mom helped with it too. So my dad had small businesses in town my whole life growing up. And, mom was there to kind of, she worked some with the shops, but then she, took care of the kids. I'm the youngest of 7, so big family.
Busy.
Yeah. The chosen one, they call me.
Are you? Is that what your siblings call you?
Don't ask my older siblings. They won't agree with that. And so, dad kind of was the breadwinner and mom was more homemaker, but I thought my parents did a great job. But I feel that, father's more, definitely I take on more of the breadwinning, side since my wife works at a, small Christian school. And, but I think kind of beyond that, a father's role is to be there emotionally and physically and present for their kids, showing them, of course, teaching them and, passing on knowledge and whatnot to them through stories and words, but also in kind of in what they see me doing too, and try to be that example without telling them, but also kind of what they watch.
So let me ask this, just because you've got a son and you've got a daughter. When you think about them graduating Makualani and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, I graduated here 1,000 years ago. This is so cool. My kids are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that, if your kid was like, my dad taught me blank, what would you want that thing to be that they're like kind of leaving into that next phase of life with?
Gosh.
For each different. So for your son and then for your daughter, because I think they may be different.
Yeah. Well, Charlie will probably say my dad taught me how to surf.
Beautiful. Okay.
And he's already surpassed me too. But no, I think that, gosh, I would say, I mean, kind of a combination of, my dad, hopefully they, are going to leave at this point of, my dad taught me life skills. Well, mom and dad, because I wouldn't be anywhere in parenting without Libby.
Of course.
Yeah, I think kind of those, I want them to be at that place that my dad taught me, that I can do it, that, I'm going to be okay. Also, hopefully a deeper relationship with the Lord, or where they, can trust in God and knowing where they're going to be and what they're going to be doing. Yeah.
Well, okay. So two of the things I think when we think of something like a surfing, you just made two comments, that I can do it and that I'm going to be okay. Which, when you're teaching your kid to surf, those are two statements you've probably said a good 100 times, right?
Yeah.
Like to let them know, hey, you're going to be okay.
You got this.
Yeah. And you've got this. Maybe you could take me out surfing and tell me those things to help me along. So a question that I've just started asking, more towards the end of the conversation, but it kind of leads in perfect right here, is how are you going to pass your faith to your kids? So on one hand, it's like you're living in a small town. Your circle is probably relatively similar mindset. Your kids go to a Christian school. These are all great things, right? But those aren't all things that nothing guarantees that it's going to pass,
no, absolutely.
Right? But from you right now, because you're stepping to that stage where your kids aren't just like, hey, let me read you a bedtime Bible story before you go to bed. It's like leaning into conversation, leaning into like middle school, high school, whatever. So how do you want to pass your faith to your kids? What are the most important things that you want them to take with them into their future family?
Gosh, wow. Ned, that is a very deep and difficult question. Man, and I think like you said it there too. It's like, it's different now, as they're getting older. It's not just the bedtime Bible study or story, right? So it's, I don't know. I think for, of course, community's huge, but like personally, just, I think starting, and we're really at that point of starting to have those deeper conversations, I think, about, what the Lord means to me, and then ask, of course, what does God mean to them, and kind of, kind of goes into them building their own relationship, of course, right?
If you were to say one or two things that are really important to you about your faith that you would want to pass on to your kids, what are those, like one or two nuggets for you? And as you sit and ponder that question, because that's a tough one, I'm going to think the same. I'm going to think of the same thing, and I'm going to answer because I'm putting you on the spot. I think that, okay, one of the things for me that I want to model and then I want to cultivate with them is like this balance of like, reading scripture, but then thinking, right? Like, I've been talking to my kids lately, that book, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And it's not just about like rich wealth money wise, but like, how are you thinking? Because so much right now, if I'm on the toilet, I'm looking at my phone. If I'm at the stoplight, I'm looking at my phone, right? Like all these micro moments where you would traditionally get to think. I mean, dude, kids are even, it's like listening to music in the shower, put a show on while I'm brushing my teeth on my phone. It's like there's so much less time for thinking. And for me, thinking and praying and like being in tune or aligned with God, a lot of that is like quiet time, like intentional quiet time. It doesn't have to be an hour. It could, dude, most mornings, like my goal right
10 minutes
is set my alarm for 7 to 10 minutes. And then just sit. So for me, that's something that I'm a value of, like, this is how you can find alignment with yourself and with God, is by just like if I were to set, hey, Sarah, like my wife, like, can we just sit for 10 minutes and have a cup of coffee, just be together?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what's one thing for you that's a conviction or something that you want to pass to your kids?
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think you hit a whole nother topic there about phones and time on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Well, we could go on for hours on that, but I think it's so important to take that time. At church, our pastor talks PB&J, which I have not implemented yet. Reagan, if you ever watch this, prayer Bible, and journaling. I hate journaling. I've tried. I think I'd try again, but just taking that time, and I think it's I can, of course, be more direct about it more often, but just dedicating that time daily is a conviction which I need to be doing more. And I think that was huge, like you said, centering kind of with your relationship with God daily. And I mean, we have conversations all day, but it's like it's here and there and this, but actually dedicating that time is so huge. And I've gone through periods of my life looking back where I have spent more dedicated time, and I definitely know that those times I was closer. So I mean, if I can get them into that place first, probably start back with me, but then get them into that place to be on that, that's huge. And then I mean, just hopefully just fostering that environment. Of course that it's got to be their own, we can't push them into it too, but I feel that Charlie and Gigi both are have their relationship with God already, and just want to encourage that, and help foster and cultivate that.
It's interesting, this like concept of like, I don't want to force it on my kids, or I don't want to push my kids into it. But like I'm going to force my kids to brush their teeth, right? Because I know it's good for their health. I know I'm going to force my kids to like, sorry, you are eating some vegetables tonight. If you're 22 and you don't want to do it, then fine, but suck it down. So I'm not in disagreement with you, because it's like, dude, I got 4 teenage daughters at home, right? So this idea of making your kid, it's just a dance, right? But I do think that overall, I think sometimes as Americans, we may have leaned too much into, hey, this is how dad does it, but do it however you want to. Because it's like, is that so, Dad? If you really feel like this is life or death, are you going to tell me with a little bit more conviction? Now, I'll tell you, like, I know I grew up in a bit more of like Assemblies of God, Pentecostal. It was like a little bit more like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And so I think sometimes maybe we've pulled back from that a little too much. But I just think it's just for us dads to be thinking about, right? And I think putting us at our kid at 18, or our kid having their first baby, or our kid getting married, it's like, then we can go, okay, well, what are the things I need to start doing today so that whatever I want to be true is true? Yeah. Okay. When did you embrace fatherhood? So it's like, I had my first kid at 22. I didn't know what I didn't know. I knew I wanted to be a dad, but I think some dads, it's like they're so excited they find out you're going to be a dad, or it's when the baby's born, or it's when the baby walks, or it's when you go and you paddle out into the ocean the first time. So for you, when did you realize, wow, fatherhood, like my role is really important in this kid's life, not just to be the breadwinner?
Gosh, I feel kind of right off the bat. I kind of always wanted to be a dad, and knew right away. I mean, I may have even been before Charlie was born. I mean, I kind of was ready and excited, but I can't think of a different defining moment.
When Charlie was born, other than surfing, what was something that you're like, oh man, I can't wait to be able to do this with my kid?
Oh man, travel, show him all these cool places.
What's a favorite place of yours that you were excited to take Charlie to, or you're excited to take him to?
Banff, Canada was one of our favorites, and we've gotten the kids out twice now, and then we've been a handful more times. But
skiing, snowboarding, hiking, what's the
winter
end goal?
Winter. Growing up out here, we get snow up on Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, but it's by the time they open the roads, it's melted and then refrozen in ice already. So Libby and I like to get to the cold when we can.
Yeah, for sure.
To visit.
What's something that you've learned about yourself through fatherhood? So it's like, when you get married, you're like, oh gosh, I didn't really realize how selfish I was. And I learned this,
Yes.
that, and the
Hey,
other.
that in fatherhood also. Yeah.
So in fatherhood, what's something that you have learned about yourself?
Yeah. Gosh, definitely times I've learned where I was selfish that way too.
Yeah.
But I think I love being a dad. But like I said, I kind of knew that I would always want to be a father. Um, I really enjoy teaching them new things. Kind of sharing things that I've done and showing them. So I think that's probably part of being a father is
Hmm.
imparting that knowledge. But I like to show them. I like to boss people around. I think I figured that out being a father. Yeah.
Do you get bossed around or do you do the bossing around?
Oh, I boss around. Yeah, I was watching one of your others, and I can't remember which one it was, but I'm a big embracer of follow through, and
Hmm.
if this is what we're saying, this is what it is. And I think many parents, we actually stopped hanging out with some families back when Charlie was little, because it's like, oh, we have very different parenting styles, and
Mm.
they let the kid do whatever they want, and I feel the kids need that and want that. I mean, they
Hmm.
literally want to feel safe and want to know that there are boundaries. And we were not a yes day family, I'd say.
Mm.
But the kids, they have to, do their own thing and make mistakes and grow too. But yeah,
So you mentioned three things that are important to you as a dad, and you kind of like even shifted into just like a bit more of conviction kind of mode versus like
yeah,
thinking. It was like on your mind that um, follow through is important,
yeah,
boundaries are important, and mistakes are important, right? To learn from them.
yeah.
Are there any other things like that that come to mind that you're like, yeah, these things in the Stimac household, they may not be written on a value statement wall, but like if you spent a couple weeks with us, you'd notice that these things are values for us.
Yeah, great time together. I think is huge.
Hmm.
Time, doing whatever, whether it's going to the beach or uh, hanging out at the house, watching a movie, traveling. I think as much time together as we can spend, we try to.
And,
Um,
and let me ask this question to that because
yeah,
I think this would be good for dads to hear and consider. For you guys, how much time is spent like when you say time together? Um, I think sometimes we can default into inviting another family over or going on a vacation with another family, which
yeah,
then can make it where the dads are hanging out, the moms are hanging out, and the kids are hanging out with other kids. How much do you balance, or is it important to you to have just your family be together? And if
yeah.
that's important to you, why?
Great question. I definitely feel like our core family, it's important for us to have special time together, whether it's travel or at
Hmm.
home. Um, I love hanging out with people.
Yeah.
like I miss not hunting for houses with you because I don't get to see you as often. Um, but so I love seeing people, but also um, I think it's really important to spend that quality time with the core family, because one, I think it gives the kids the uninterrupted time with us and
Hmm.
us with them too. Because I mean, gosh, you blink and they're in college, right? I mean,
Dude.
everybody tells you it's going to go by fast, and you don't really believe them, and then then they're driving and gone. And so I think, that's, I think, why it's important, because you don't get the time back, right? And
Yeah.
it's like it really does go fast. It's a cliche, but I mean, it's like it's goes so fast. It's like
Yeah.
with Charlie, this is way back, but when he was little, like, there was first baby, and we're like the sleepless nights and
Hmm.
whatever, everything happening, how at that point it was like, how are we going to get through this stage, right? It's like, okay, when are we going to get sleep, when is it going to be done? And then it's like, then it was all done, and it was like, wait, we can't ever get that time back, right?
Hmm.
I get all emotional. No, but it's like with Georgia, so we really did try with Georgia when she was little to even those sleepless night stays, like, hey, this might be a week, might be 4 weeks, might be a month, whatever, 2 months, but let's embrace every part of it, because
Hmm.
we won't have it back. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Why do
I
you
forget
care
if there
so
was another
much?
part.
No, it's good. Like, why do you care? I
Yeah.
think it's good for dads to like, because we can
God,
get so
man.
caught up in like the busyness of work and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's our responsibility. I mean,
Mm,
that's part of it, but I think it's just, I don't know, it's who I am
hmm
personally. But and then I think most of us, I mean, it's our job, the best job
mm,
we have,
hmm
and yeah. I look at like Charlie's taller than Libby now, which is crazy, and it's like
Yeah.
whoa. Or well, I should. He's like that close to being
Yeah.
taller,
Yeah.
like he
Yeah.
an inch, and he feels taller, but it's like he's this little man now, and I'm like, wow, I don't have the little boy anymore.
hmm
It's moving into this whole new realm of life.
Dude, and I think this is the point, right? Like I just did a podcast yesterday. One of my Friday episodes is family a priority, and I think so much of the time we like do the insurance job or the real estate job or the school board meeting. We do all these things that fill up our calendar for
Yeah,
our family, but we almost make them all like they get our best versus the
yeah,
family dinner, the family vacation,
yeah,
the breakfast together, the dinner together. Like all those other things should be supporting the ultimate, which is like the family connection. And I was
yeah,
telling my kids, it's like, dude, it's a beautiful mess, right? Because it's like mom and
yeah,
dad, sometimes there's tension, the kids, there's tension, there's bills
yeah,
to be paid, there's so much. But to like
yeah,
have that,
totally.
because like right now, you and I are in a moment where it's like, dude, we let's just get off this podcast and go hang out with our kids, right? We're in that moment
Yeah,
of like,
yeah,
dude, family matters, and that's what I want is although technology and growth and wealth and our country and well, all this
yeah,
stuff that's like moving so fast, it all has to be for the sake of like family.
yeah, yeah,
Family's the ultimate.
yeah. And I feel it, like you said, we're at this, we're talking about it all right now. So it's like, yes, all right, see you, Dad, gonna
Yeah.
get the kids, right?
Yep.
But then it's like, then life gets busy and it is
Mm-hmm.
hard sometimes to prioritize, right? But I think just one, having these kind of conversations and open with each other and open with our spouses and those around our community and just kind of refocusing as much as possible. But
Do
I have pretty awesome kids, so it's not
not
hard
hard.
to
Yeah.
want to spend time with them.
Do you, since you run your own business and you can get, the calendar can get full with real
Yeah,
estate, do you have like a weekly or monthly or any kind of like pause check-in to like see uh, are your priorities straight? Do you have any kind of check-in with yourself on that, or how do you keep them
I
straight?
don't. I don't. I probably should sometimes.
Well, maybe not. I mean, it's like how do you, but you, because like you said earlier, I'm pretty much done by 70% of the time.
Yeah,
So you've already
yeah,
kind of, how and when then did you set those priorities so that it's not like, hey, dad's going to go work a little bit more for a season and then all 5 years went by.
yeah. Great question. Well, because I feel it kind of, at least for my business, it kind of comes in waves. So
Yeah.
like there's times like gosh, first quarter, end of last year, beginning of this year, we were pretty busy.
Are
But
you
it
trying to
was
say you had some high maintenance clients in the Q4, Q1?
what? No, and lovely clients always. Super thankful for
Sure.
all of you.
Yeah, I'm
No,
very
for
easy to
real
work
though.
with.
But like so that time, I mean, I felt like I was 24/7 for like
Yeah.
3 months,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't. It's how it feels. But
Mm-hmm,
um,
mm-hmm.
and I do a lot of too. Like if I can finish by time they're off school, I try. But I'll still have like often I'll get them to bed or at least get Georgia to bed, and then while we're hanging out, watching a show or whatever, after Georgia's to bed, Charlie's still up. Like sometimes I'll spend an hour or two doing emails and working on contracts and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I split it throughout the day, but yeah, I don't have really a check of making
The
sure other
priorities.
than just yeah. And Libby too, my wife, she's she knows that sometimes are busier and sometimes are less
Right.
busy. And I feel we have a pretty good balance, overall. Um,
Nice. I want to ask
yeah,
about your dad. What is something that you appreciated about your dad? And then what's something you wish your dad would have done differently?
yeah. I miss my dad. I lost him a couple of years ago.
Mm,
Um, yeah, thanks. Excuse me. Pull it all together. Um, I feel my dad was always there,
mm,
which I really appreciated. We were never super super deep. I don't know. Just I don't remember any big, deep conversations, or, my dad going into that, and my parents were older, because I'm the youngest of seven. So, I mean, they were in their early mid 40s when they had me. So, I mean, when I was kind of in that, junior high school days, they were, in their 60s, and so, but I appreciate, they were always there, whether if I needed, emotionally or, physically, financially, whatever they were able to do, they were there. I really appreciated that. And always felt taken care of and safe. What was your other part of the question?
So the first question is, what did you appreciate about your dad?
Yeah. So I
And it
appreciate
sounds like
that.
he was always there, consistent, was with your mom. But then what's something that you wish your dad would have done differently? And again, the question's rough because most of us wouldn't change our outcome, right? But it's maybe shifting the way you're showing up for Charlie in Georgia.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I guess, and I don't know if it was because of his age, but like, he worked hard and then would come home and basically watch TV for the afternoon. When I was younger, my dad did a lot. He actually brought in, organized soccer to the Big Island, to Kona, with a couple guys. It was before ASO, it was HISO, Hawaii Youth Soccer Association. So like, he did a lot of that. And then, I must have been in first, second, probably second or third grade, and he tore his Achilles tendon in his ankle, and so then he was a lot less active for like being out and about for a couple years, and then like you say, always working hard. But so I guess kind of part of what I love to do with the kids, getting to the beach or going on adventures and doing all that stuff. My dad definitely, when I was younger, I remember, camping and doing that kind of stuff and getting out. But as we got older, a lot less of that. So, yeah.
And you're doing that with your kids. Like, you're riding the mini ramp at the house. You're going out in the water. You're not kind of just like doing that from the sidelines.
My back doesn't like camping, so we don't camp too much, but I got to figure that out because I think they're missing that. I don't want them to be too comfortable.
Yeah, camping Big Island's a little bit different too than like, I don't know, being able to tour around places in the mainland. So yeah, that's been a tough one for us because it's like, okay, how many times can I camp at Pines? It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, it's a little bit different. Okay, this podcast is Fatherhood Field Notes. You've been doing it, sharing your journals, which you love so much, your mental journals. But the mantra behind it is rebel and create. So what's something that you are rebelling against, and what do you hope to create out of that?
Yes. So one of the things, I think I put it in the questions we talked about, is we stopped last year, for the most part, all like organized sports, which I have nothing against. I enjoyed being, I played soccer my whole life growing up. I think I started my first team when I was 3. And then played all the way through high school.
Wow.
Varsity. And I played baseball for 4 or 5 years. So I never had a break, which I didn't mind it when I was little, but I think it was almost more for Libby and myself to kind of stop things. But then as we so like 2 years ago, Charlie was doing baseball. 3 years ago, say baseball and soccer, and then he left baseball, stopped doing baseball, and he was doing soccer and surfing contests. And then Georgia was doing soccer, and she was in the Aloha Theater production of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So I mean, every parent, gets to this point where 8 days a week they're driving the kids for 4 hours after school back and forth. And we just got to this point because like we live a half hour away from the Aloha Theater, where Georgia's play was, and her rehearsal was like 2.5 hours. So it's like just too much, do we go and then come back, or do we stay out for those hours? So we just, after that was finished, we're like, you know what, let's take a break. And it's been like the best thing we've done. So we could do things like in the afternoon, if I don't have work and we want to, we run down to the beach, or go do this or that. And so it's opened up this kind of, I guess, free time and ability to spend time all together. Or, some days, if the waves are good and we don't all go to the beach, I'll take Charlie down surfing, or take Georgia on a date, something like that. So That's, yeah.
Dude, I think more people need to
And
hear
I have
that.
nothing.
Yeah. That's okay. You can
Yeah,
say you
it's
hate
funny.
organized sports. I don't mind.
No, not at all. I love it. And I do think that it's important, that camaraderie as a team, being part of a team too. I
Yeah.
think parts of that are some of my best memories growing up are, and relationships, and
Yeah.
even with which, I mean, I see guys that I played, soccer with when I was 6, like, oh, Eddie, how's it going? It's like, so, I mean, we build really, and they went to different schools than I did, but, we had that relationship because of it. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, dude,
yeah.
I get it. I understand. I think that okay, so I've got, one who's serious into sports, that's Violet, and then I've had,
Yeah.
A couple here and there that are into it, not into it or whatever, but you have this feeling that you're supposed to have your kids in all these things.
Yeah,
And then
totally.
even for my son, I'm like, this kid needs to be a part of a team sport. But then, because he doesn't want anything on his calendar. He's 15, almost 16, and he's like,
Yeah.
he wants tonight free, tomorrow free, the next day free, so that he can surf if he wants. He can ride his dirt bike if he wants. It's just like free. And part of me has wanted, like, dude, you should be in sports. But then it's like, I'm having a meeting with my wife at 4:00 today, and I've got stuff to talk about that's for August, for September, for October. I'm like, my life is or our life, is full and scheduled, that it's like, dude, just, what, be a kid and have this while you can. Because once responsibility starts, it is like, you don't get that forever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
So I get it. And then also the driving around so much. I was in the car for 3 hours on Saturday, just, and this isn't even sports. I don't even remember what it was. It was driving kids here, there, and wherever.
Yeah. I ran into a old family friend, Nancy Alcos, at Quinn's the other day, and somehow it came up. We were talking about how the kids aren't in sports, and she's like, "Good for you guys. We did that for 3 years," and they've got 6 kids. The Alcos family, great family. And so she said, "Yeah, we took a break for 3 years," and she's like, "I don't regret it at all."
Mm-hmm.
And their kids are all grown and married, and some kids of their own now, and so I'm like, hey, Alphys did it. We're good.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a couple last questions for you, but before I ask them, any stories that, or anything that's kind of popped into your head, as we've been talking, that you're like, oh, I want to come back to this, or I want to share this, anything that's come up as it relates to fatherhood?
Gosh.
And it's okay if not, I just don't want to miss anything.
No, I think, I mean, the biggest thing is, just trying to dig in and enjoy that time, because it goes by fast, and kind of do all that we can with them and for them. Yeah.
With that in mind, this question comes to mind is like, how have you found, there's a lot of passive dads out there. There's a lot of dads who just kind of like lean on the mom to make the decisions about a lot of things. How have you found a good balance or conversation connection with Libby, to like both of you having input about the way that you parent together?
Yeah. I'm always right. So it doesn't,
oh, that's
whatever I say
awesome.
goes. I'm just kidding. No, not at all. Gosh, thankfully, I mean, we most often see eye to eye on things, and I found an incredible partner in Libby, and but we don't always, and so I think it's just having, when there are things that we see differently, having that conversation, taking that time to hear each other and listen to each other, and actually listen and hear what the other one's saying. And sometimes I'll hear what Libby has to say, but still feel, obviously, what I feel is right, and then vice versa. But then also, I think often we hear each other out, and then see both sides and decide which way to go together. I know, kind of a quick back note. It's funny, like with the kids, and I know your kids, some were in all different schools, right? Some Aquilani, some Kona, some Leia. And so like when because Libby and I were high school sweethearts too, so we were together for 6-7 years before we got married. So when we were young and talked about having kids, it was like, okay, hopefully, and I would always like, oh yeah, hopefully we can send them to Makualani. I had a great experience there. And Libby was like, oh, I'd love to send them to Calicut. Hey, I did great there. And then it was funny. Once we had Charlie, like literally, I think it was within a week or two of Charlie being born. Libby's like, "We are sending him to Makualani. I know what happens at Kalakaua. I'm not sending him there." And and so I didn't even have to win on that. Not to win or not, but I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, I
even
get
have
it.
to push that more. So, yeah, I think kind of as we grow together too, like I said, we're thankfully pretty in sync, and not on everything, and obviously I've grown in certain areas and given in on some areas, and vice versa for
Yeah.
her as well, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. I think that the communication piece, it's like, do you have any tips for any guys who are like at that, you know, 10-year mark where they're married and it's like, okay, they've got kids, they've got some little kids, they've got the mortgage now, they've got some things like any tips on creating space to have good communication with your spouse?
Gosh, I think just taking the time to do it, to have the conversations, and then also being open to hearing them, not just coming and saying what you need to say, but be open to hearing what they have to say as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I think something that I've been learning recently is timing. Because sometimes I get an idea in my
Yeah.
head and I'm like, oh my, it's like I can't stop
Yeah.
thinking about it till I talk about it. But it's like,
That's so funny.
so what's helped me is to actually write it down. So it's like
I
if I
like
write
that.
it down, it kind of gets it out of my head and then I can sit on it for a couple of days before I
Yeah.
run. And I'm like, I got to share this with you because if Sarah had a nickel for every time I said, hey, I have an idea or I want to share something with you, it's like, it's a lot. And then the other thing I've
That's so
realized
funny.
too is like, I think this is just recent, but anytime after I would say like 5 or 6, it's like, it's too late. The ship has
Yeah.
sailed
Yeah.
to have
Oh
like a
man.
serious
A serious
conversation.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget that sometimes, but that's a huge. It's a great nugget to remember. Save them for another day, because
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And dude, I'm at 20 years and I'm just figuring this out a little bit better. So dudes listening,
yeah.
do better.
Do better.
Do
Yeah,
better.
yeah. When it
um,
comes up, when you're just about to fall asleep and it's in your mind, save it. That's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have 2 last questions for you.
Okay.
I heard this statement recently, and I want to hear what do you think of this statement? It was something to the extent of judge a man by his grandkids.
Mm. I like that. I think that that's kind of wraps up all that we talked about of what we're what we're passing on to our kids is going to pass on to their kids if they have kids. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think the better job we do, you'll see it in multiple generations down the line.
And what does better job mean? Like, if you were to really like,
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about it. You may not have said the word, but like, what does do a better job mean?
Gosh, I think most of it is being there,
Yeah,
like physically, emotionally,
time.
and then being that example the best
Mm-hmm.
we can be of
Mm-hmm.
a good father, or good husband, a good dad, provider, you know someone that they can look up to, because I mean so much. And from when they're so little, I mean they see what you do and they
Yeah,
mimic it, right? And so
yeah,
I mean, for the most part, obviously they don't, but yeah, I think that's a big one, is just the being the best that we can be as individuals, as men, then they can see that and hopefully pass it on to them,
yeah.
as much of it as possible.
Yeah, dude. And would you say that your dad, when you were because you grew up here, so when
Yeah.
you were in the car with your dad, how did the community respond, or how did he respond when he saw someone he knew? Because it's like a small town. So what did you see
Yeah.
when you saw your dad out in the community?
Yeah. Shoot, back then it was super small town too, right? Well, excuse me. Yeah, I think it was always super positive,
Mm,
um, and yeah, I kind of like that about the small town too, is you do know most people. I mean, it's kind of hard to go to a store and see a good half dozen or more people that or
yeah.
Pines.
Yeah.
But yeah.
As you were saying the last kind of answering that last question, I was like thinking about all the times I see you and you are so positive, always like hey Ned, how's it going?
Yeah.
Always, I don't think I've ever seen you like having a bad day. And what's cool is I'm asking you kind of like, next generation questions. And what's cool is, you did, mention that your dad has passed, but he's living on in Kona just in the ways that you show up out there, right? So the way that when you're at Pines, and it's like I remember seeing you just maybe a couple weeks ago, and it's not just to roll the window down, it's like a pull over and give a hug or a high five or say what's up. And so I think that what's cool is that very thing of like you're helping people find their dream homes in a community. Like it's a big deal, right? You're
Yeah.
seeing people at the store who you've walked through a hard part, an exciting part, a stressful part of life with.
And you're down.
Up and down. And your kids are getting to see that, right? So when your kid is in the back seat or in the front seat or out in the water with you, you're passing that same thing that your dad passed to you. So, dude, super freaking cool. So,
thank you.
Any thoughts on that before I just kind of make my last statement?
Yeah, no, I thank you. I super. I don't know. I of course have hard parts of days or hard days sometimes.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I feel that super blessed for the family that I have and this beautiful place we get to live and what I get to do and help people kind of realize those same dreams. So I feel that like, shoot, if I'm complaining about this, I shouldn't. Nobody should listen to me anyway, right? But I do. It's funny when you mentioned kind of. I do, even when I'm with the kids. I mean, I am pretty busy. So like I do like technology these days, and I don't know, we're towards the end, so I don't know if I bring up more stuff to talk about. But like technology, it's pretty incredible, like Apple CarPlay and whatnot. I mean, I can get so much work done while I'm in the car.
Right.
Like in that part, which I probably should. It's hard though, life, but I probably should limit some of that because like Charlie and I will be going down to surf, and our 15-minute drive from our house to the beach, I get a phone call and I'm on the call the whole time. Sometimes, not always, but
so is it on like, speakerphone?
Maybe. Oh yeah. I tend to let I let people know, hey, we got the kids in the car. Depends on who I'm talking to. Otherwise, they have their sailor talk.
Seems like you let me know that every time.
Yeah. No, one or two people I have to let know. Otherwise, there's a lot of F-bombs and they'll hear that all at Pines anyway. But
yeah, I'm not the F-bomb guy, but I am the
I know for sure.
Just like to joke around. But here's the thing, you know what?
I like that too.
It's like I think it's probably doing more positive than negative. I'll give you an example. Brody and I went for the first time. It was cool. We went to Mauna Kea and rode our dirt bikes yesterday afternoon, which was really fun.
Mauna Kea?
No, there's like some trails and stuff like around the volcano. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll try to maximize it, right? Like, okay, we're going to listen to this news podcast or this business podcast and I'll do that. Yesterday was like, I just said, just be, even if we're just quiet or listen to music. So I didn't say that to him. I just was like intentionally thinking about it.
Yeah.
But so I do see the benefit of both, but I will say that I think too many dads separate their careers from their family. And I think one of the greatest gifts you and I can give our sons, especially, is to let them see the work we do. Like Charlie might not sell houses and Brody might not sell insurance, but at the end of the day, you and I are in relationship businesses. So for them to be a part of those conversations and overhear them, I feel like is setting them up for so much success because as technology moves fast, right? The thing is relationship won't change. It's still going to be like business is always going to be a relationship. So, okay, dude, incredible. I'm so grateful for who you are, for the positive impact you have on our community, the massive impact you've had on my family and helping us get into like a dream home and helping us make it happen. You do incredible work. And then I just love seeing you out there in the community. Great dad, great husband, very flexible and loving and really community oriented. So dude, just keep doing, what you're doing, loving your kids, loving your wife and being a positive influence out in the community. And dude, I'm just grateful to have you in my life. And thank you for being on here and sharing your fatherhood stories and wisdom with me and all the listeners.
Man, Ned, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And thank you to everybody who listens.
Really enjoyed meeting with Chris, talking fatherhood. One of the things that I am pulling from the conversation is just this reminder that spending time with just your family is important, not, always doing having multiple families over for dinner and stuff. That's great. But having intentional time with just your family. My friend Greg, he says, treat your sibling better than your best friend. And so I say that to my kids, and then I'm convicted of it to make sure I'm treating my spouse better than I would my best friend or my teammates, at work. And so what I'm pulling out is just this reminder that as a dad, you really have to set the tone and create space for the family to be together. And funny enough, I was just talking to another dad yesterday. He was saying how different his kid will act when it's just the family towards the siblings versus when there's friends around. So helping to create those relationships and connections is important, because I think sometimes we want to, like, if we invite this family over, then this kid has a friend, this kid has a friend, I'll hang out with the dad, you'll hang out with the mom. And sometimes we're not creating enough moments where our kids are learning to just get along, or our kids are seeing mom and dad together. So something to consider: family dinners, family nights, critical. If these podcasts are beneficial, you're enjoying them, please write a review, share it with a friend, help spread the word that fatherhood matters. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Schaut. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.